Hello. Since we're on the topic of relationships, I do remember Underworld also mentioned about friendships, and that is pretty big too because I feel like it should be mentioned about relationships and friendships in school because we had a lot of topics that we spend a lot of time that would never really be part of the majority of our lives. But this would, and it would, if it's toxic, we would suffer big consequences, which is weird why they wouldn't have that. But one of the things that really affected who I was and in high school was friendships. I was not really big into dating. I did not get along with guys. They actually did not like me at all. And that hasn't really changed much, to be honest, but I was never really friendly with them. I didn't really try. In fact, I kind of saw them as like, oh, they think they're better than me, and they will always think they're better than me. And they're not very deep, which is not true. Like, some guys are, like, and the thing is, it's not that they can't get deep, it's that they won't do it because of societal standards and all that amazing, great stuff that we all definitely benefit from. But because of that, I kind of shut down and wouldn't really consider a lot of them, especially because they're high school guys, in general. Like, even in my early 20s, none of the guys I really cared about getting into deep conversations and getting to know each other unless they were after something else. So I focus my majority of my time on my friendships and developing friendship because I always wanted to be one of those girls that said, oh, my best friend, and oh, my best friend, and this best friend, and my other friend. And I just like the idea of having really close, good friends. So I really liked that. The thing is, when you force something, it never works out. So if you're forcing anything, it's never gonna work out. It turns out like shit. Like when you force shit, it hurts and it ends up damaging you. Disgusting, I know. And that's what I did with my high school friends. I had transferred schools. I left my other friends behind because I moved away, and then when we moved back, I couldn't get back into that school. So I ended up going to this other school. And that's when I met a group of girls who all were Mexican American, which is what I am. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna speak Spanish. Nobody's gonna understand what we're saying. We can talk about like personal shit and nobody will know. One of them that was kind of the leader of the group that everybody kind of like agreed with because she was like the pretty one. It was like the mean girls, like you hate Regina, but you also love her. And she wasn't as toxic as Regina was. Like, she would never, like, hit on the guys we liked. That it wasn't like that. It's always, movies are always extreme versions of it. And the thing was, where I messed up with, and this is why I'm telling you guys don't do it. I took them way too seriously. I took all their friendship way too seriously. I thought that if I gave and I gave and was a good friend, maybe they'd be a good friend. And a lot of their effort wasn't there. I also wanted them around all the time because I finally had friends that were like me. A lot of the times I wouldn't get invited with like the Spanish crowd because I didn't meet the cut. Like, I didn't look like them, I didn't dress like them, so this was the first time that I had friends that spoke Spanish. The main one didn't, as I think I already mentioned that. The main one didn't, but she was part of it because she was the reason I actually joined the group, and it was because I looked weird to her. She thought my skin color was extremely weird compared to my hair. This is my natural hair color. So she thought it was really a weird combination, and she just started talking to me, which is weird because I literally look like a plain Jane. And she did look a little bit like, she was tall. She looked like Katy Perry. Like, she was really pretty. I remember thinking she was really pretty, and I made the mistake of thinking, like, the halo effect. You think she could do no wrong until the beauty wears off and you get used to it, and then you see them for who they really are. And that's exactly what we ended up crashing. And the first sign, I think, of like a bad friendship and a fake friendship is if they never keep their word with like things they want to do. Like, she would make plans constantly and we would just never do them. So she would make me look forward to and we just never did it. And then another one was, my other friends did this a lot, is if I got in a fight with one of them and they were lying and just yelling and being just rude, nobody would call it out. Nobody would say anything. But if it was a leader, it was like, oh, automatically she's right no matter what, you know? So it was like there was no justice. There was no like fairness. It was just, oh, she's better than you automatically for just the way she looks. So you're wrong always. And if she doesn't stand up against it, then you're wrong. And that was another sign. Like, there's no justice or fairness in the friendship. They don't really understand your point and they yell at you. And this is the kind of shit you guys should notice. And yeah, we were in high school, but it still goes, like, till this day. You know, like, I've had friendships and shit like that they had those signs. And that's when I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna take you seriously. So another one is they make you look bad in front of your crush or their crush for no reason, or other people. Like, they just make you look bad. That's something I struggled with a lot with this specific girl that I just met at a job. She would always try to make me look bad. Like, she'd always, like, I was always older than that group of workers. I was the older one. And one of the guys said, he didn't, like, see me this way, but he said, oh, you look so good. But he didn't see me like, he said I looked good, but he didn't think he didn't want to be with me, if that makes sense. And she said, oh yeah, she looks good for being the oldest one in the group. Like, you know, comments like that. Like, she was not a friend. And she would also say, like, oh, this one guy, he's obsessed with me. And she would just say weird stuff like that. And I'm like, why do I want to? Like, she wanted to prove it. Like, she thought I didn't believe her. I never said one thing that wouldn't, you know? So it's like they'll lie to you kind of to get validation about stuff that hasn't happened, because she'd get called out on lies and it was just awkward because it's like, I didn't need this. You know, I didn't need this, I wasn't gonna, I don't think of you less if nobody is obsessed with you type of thing. What else? There's so much, and guys, write yours in the comments, okay, so other people know what to look for. I guess for me is what I did wrong was always wanting to be around my friends. Like, I always want to be around them. My new friend, like, I feel like I'm suffocating her because, like, I always want to be on the phone with her while I'm working 8 hours a day, you know, and talking to her. She's okay with it for now, but I really hope, like, she understands that she doesn't have to do it. And if I'm, like, annoying her, then she could just, you know, not answer the phone or, like, not call me if I'm, you know, expecting so much. So that's one of the things I do. Another thing is I get jealous. So it's like, if your friend gets jealous when you have other friends, that's toxic. I'm toxic. I just want to be the only, like, friend. Like, I told my friend Lou, like, you're not allowed to get another best friend. Like, you can get friends, but you can't call them your best friend. That's toxic. Like, I should not be a thing. I know it shouldn't be a thing, but it's, like, really hard for me because I just always wanted that one best friend. Oh my gosh. And I always felt like I had to fight over my best friend when they met somebody new. That's sad. It sucked. In the end, it's so much easier to let people go if they don't want to be near you, you know? Like, it's just like, I'm so over convincing people to, like, see me and value me. Like, I don't give a shit. So another thing is, if you're constantly having to prove that you're a good friend to them, even if you've been a good friend, like, that's one. If they only contact you to help them with something, they don't want to talk about anything else, they don't want to listen to you, they only want to talk, like, they always need something, some help from something, or they contact you when everybody else canceled. I had a friend that I wasn't really close to her, but she had, like, a baby shower and nobody was going, so she had my friend that we had in common call me and tell me to go, and I'm like, I'm not going, I didn't receive an invitation. It's like, I'm not your last minute, like, oh, nobody showed up, come on over, you know? Like, that is a red flag. Do not be friends, or do not take friends seriously. And the thing is that you don't have to cut people off completely or tell them you're not a good friend, you know? That's just weird. But you can slowly distance yourself. That's what I did with my high school friends. And I always wanted to be like, oh, we were friends in high school. I always wanted to do that. But I think that's a big, like, that's a little cheesy, you know? Like, you can't force it. If it happens, then that's cool. That's really nice. You guys could evolve together and change to who you're now, you know, years later. But if you're forcing it, like, don't. Like, just stop. It hurts so much, and I tried so hard to stick with my friends. But we were really different. I let go. I stopped contacting them. I stopped being the first one to like message them, and of course hanging out, and eventually it felt fine. Like, I was okay. In fact, I became better off because all that energy wasted on trying to reach them and trying to get them to care about me was set on myself and what I needed to do. So that was cool. So yeah, don't do the most, and don't expect people, like, you know, if the friend isn't putting their energy, kind of match their effort. Always match people's effort. If they're not happy with you matching their effort, it's because they're expecting to benefit completely from you, so they're using you. I would do this a lot too with toxic relationships. I would treat them the exact way. Sometimes I'd even message exactly what they'd messaged me before, and they always hated it. That's because that just means they're aware of how they're treating you. They just don't care, and they don't have empathy for you unless it's happening to them, and that's questionable. Red flag. Just avoid it. I swear to you, like, I wish I could have told this to myself before, but it's so much better to be alone. So much better, even without friends. Like, it's so much better. It's so much better because it's just a lot of energy. Toxic people, whether you're in a relationship or a friendship relationship, like, it's just friends, it's really hard when you're doing all this stuff for them and it's still not quite enough, and it's never going to be quite enough because it comes from breadcrumbing. They'll give you a little bit of taste of like attention just so you can keep wanting to try the most for the littlest piece. So just be careful of people using you, basically. You know, using you, like, always needing something and only ever listening. And they don't really care. They're not genuinely caring about your life. That's one thing that I'm really afraid of. It's really hard to question, like, ask yourself these stuff, but you have to make sure, are these friends good enough for me? Are they making me thrive? Are we gonna evolve together? And I really think, like, at this time and age, I'm 28. It took years to find one friend for me because I'm not out, like, I'm not social, I'm not out seeking for friends. Obviously, it'll be faster for you guys if you're out and seeking for good friends. But do be picky, okay? Be picky on who you tell, like, your traumas to, who you share your personal information, because not all friends are your best friends. There's so much toxic shit. Like, you don't want a friend that's like a superficial friend, like someone like you just hang out, like, for example, Sandman. I don't know if you guys remember, he was like my crush. I would consider him my superficial friend. Like, I'm not really close to him. I don't want him knowing my personal shit, so I just hang out with him during like work, and that's it. Like, I don't hang out with him any other time. I don't really talk to him. I don't message him. I don't, because he's not, I can't connect with him. You know what I mean? And a lot of people you're not going to connect with. So don't force it to happen. There are people that it comes naturally, and sometimes when and that whole thing was like, if it doesn't come naturally, don't do it. That's not true. If it doesn't come naturally, it might be because you guys aren't used to talking like this, because it took me a long time to find a good friend, you know? So if it's not natural, but you're both putting in the effort, that's where it makes sense. Then this is a friendship that's worth it, you know? Like, you can keep going at it as long as you guys are matching energy. My friend Lou, when I was becoming friends with her, I knew she was a good best friend candidate, or like, yeah, it sounds weird, because she would constantly be genuinely interested in me. Like, she would literally ask me questions like, what would you do if this and this and that? And I love those kind of like questions, and she literally did care. Like, she wanted to know what my answer was. A lot of people I've tried to be friends with, they only care to answer the question. You know, they only care for their perspective. They don't really care about mine. A lot of them never ask. I would wait for them to ask me the same question. I always wait. Like, I would ask hypotheticals, like the dumbest ones. Like, oh, even the most common known ones of like, what would you do if you won the lottery? Like, what would be the first thing you'd buy that was like the biggest thing if you won the lottery? Go ahead and answer it in the comments if you want, and we'll vote who we'll like the one that's like the best answer. But if you won the lottery, it would be the first thing you buy. And people would answer the question, and I would wait for them to ask me, and they never would. And it's like, with Lou, she would right away ask me, what about you? Or she would just come up with it and ask me, and I'm like, what the heck? And she'd talk to me about it, like, oh my gosh, and this and this and that, what about this? It's so crazy. And that's what I wanted. Like, I wanted somebody to genuinely be interested in me. With like other people, they didn't really care to be interested unless I was saying something stupid and they thought it was funny, you know? Like, That's about it. And that's what I find. And like, just be really, really careful about people that use you, because I just, that's really scary. I feel like, and they can use you for emotional support, company, you know, it's not just money or favors, you know, like wash my car or some shit. I don't know, but that's all I have to say about that for now. Let me know what you guys think. And I have a lot of high school stories I can tell you guys about those group of friends. And yeah, I can tell them. I can what's it called? I can expose myself and my toxicity and why I became such a vengeful piece of shit. No, just kidding. I'm not that vengeful, actually. I should be. I would love to be, but right now it's considered toxic, so I won't do it. Ew. I'm just so tired. I'm sorry. I'm like acting a little weird. But let me know what you guys think. What is. Oh gosh. I'm gonna lay down. What is toxic friendship? So yeah.